Everybody in Barcelona. Dick and Gwen went to Barcelona by air. They put up at a small hotel. Inspector Milligan and Stanley Dixon didn't go by train either. They also flew to this beautiful Spanish town, but they took a later plane. "Why don't we start earlier?" Stan asked the inspector, because he was anxious to set out as early as possible. "We may miss them." "There's no need to worry," Milligan said. "One of my best detectives has been following them ever since they left London." "They're very clever. They might get away from him." "Impossible. They may be very clever, but they won't be able to get away from Detective Sergeant Hunter." "Why didn't you arrest them in London?" "Because I want to find the drawing. And if we're lucky, we might even catch the person to whom they're going to sell it. Lots of valuable pictures have gone to private collectors in the last few months."
At the Grand Hotel. From the airport, Milligan and Stan went to the Grand Hotel by taxi. While the porter was taking their luggage in, Milligan asked the receptionist if there were any messages for him. There weren't. They signed the visitor's book and went upstairs to their room. It was a nice double room with a private bathroom away from the noise of traffic. Milligan hadn't been able to book 2 single rooms because the hotel was nearly full. Milligan suggested to Stan that he should have a rest or go out because Sergeant Hunter's message might only come later. Stan had never been abroad before, so he preferred going out for a short sightseeing tour. He wanted to ring Mr. Pickup and make an appointment with him. Milligan got in touch with the Spanish police and arranged everything for the arrest of the thieves.
Mr. Pickup's first visitors. Gentleman Henry opened his briefcase and gave Mr. Pickup the Leonardo with a smile. Then he watched the old man examining the drawing. Pickup was a tall man with short hair and a small grey beard. His moustache was a thin line. He was wearing a smart light suit and black shoes. Fred and Oliver looked at him in excitement. They were anxious to know what he would say about the picture and how much he'd offer. Mr. Pickup had read about the robbery in the papers and had been waiting for them. He had quite a few pictures in his collection which he had got through Henry. He was anxious to get this Leonardo which he had been trying to buy so long without success. As he looked at the picture, he saw at once that it was a copy. A very good one, of course, but a copy. He felt disappointed and rather angry. He got up and went to the window to think. As he looked out, he saw a man on the other side of the street. He was watching the house from behind a newspaper. Then Pickup caught sight of another man a little further on. He recognized them. They were detectives. He knew they had followed his 3 visitors, and they were waiting for them. Pickup was a cunning old man. He knew what to do. He turned round, and with some excuse went into the other room and rang up the police. He thought he might get into trouble if he didn't telephone them. When he went back to his study, he asked Henry to come back with the picture the following day. He explained to them that he wanted an expert to examine the drawing. Henry and his friends left the house. They were so disappointed that they didn't notice the 5 big, dark men who were walking towards them. "It's all Joe's fault, I'm sure," Henry thought angrily, when Sergeant Hunter and the Spanish detectives arrested them and took them to the nearest police station.
Gwen and Dick. A few minutes later, Gwen and Dick arrived at the door of Mr. Pickup's house. They had been quarrelling all the way from London. She had asked him to show her the Leonardo in the plane. Somebody might see it, he said, and hadn't allowed her to open the envelope. Now Gwen suggested that she should do the bargaining, but he didn't agree. The picture's mine. Mr. Pickup's a friend of my father's. I know him, not you. There's no reason why I shouldn't do the talking. I'm the one that's going to do it. Oh, Dick, be your age. You said he was a cunning old man. You may be very good at stealing pictures, but I'll be better at bargaining, I'm sure. We must get as much money as possible. Anyway, you said he liked pretty girls. Well, I am pretty. You should be reasonable. And you shouldn't quarrel with me all the time. Dick! All right, all right. Here's the envelope. You can do the talking. Mr. Pickup was glad to see Dick. He showed them in, and after Dick had answered some questions about his family, Gwen began to talk. While she was talking, she noticed that the old man didn't stop looking at her legs. So she crossed them and smiled at him. First she told him the purpose of their visit. He asked her how they had got the picture. She explained it all to him. Now he knew why Henry's copy wasn't the original. He was sure Mr. Lee wouldn't want Dick to get into trouble, so he thought he might keep the picture once he'd bought it from Dick. He began bargaining with the girl about the price.
Milligan arrives. After Sergeant Hunter had arrested the 3 gangsters, he phoned Milligan and told him where they had found them. Milligan hurried to Pickup's house. He rang the bell. Pickup answered the door. He wanted Milligan to wait in the other room, but the inspector heard the voices and went straight into the study. He was very surprised when he found Dick there. Gwen, who thought Milligan was a member of the family, went on bargaining about the drawing, though both Dick and the old man tried to stop her. She didn't understand what they wanted and got angry. She took the envelope out of her handbag and gave it to Mr. Pickup. He didn't want to open it, but Milligan wanted to see what was inside. Dick's face turned white. Nothing can save me, he thought. If I don't get into trouble this time, I promise to do everything. I'll even leave Gwen, go home and be a good boy. Then he heard Pickup laugh as he took the reference out of the envelope. Your father has always liked teasing me. You know, Inspector, he said, and looked at Gwen, this boy is as cunning as his father. I must talk about something else, Gwen thought. This old man's very rich, and I think he likes me. Let's try. She began to talk about her plans. She said she wanted to be a famous actress. Pickup said he had some important friends in show business who might help her. He invited her to spend a few weeks in his house and promised to introduce her to them. Gwen gladly accepted his invitation and went to the hotel for her luggage. She didn't even look at Dick. Dick was terribly disappointed at first, but then thought how glad he had been when it wasn't the Leonardo that the old man had taken out of the envelope. He felt a bit better and sadly asked Milligan to take him home to his father.
Stan. At that moment, Stan arrived. Now it was his turn to be surprised. He gave his envelope to Mr. Pickup without a word. Pickup opened it, and there was the Leonardo in it. Sadly, he handed it to Milligan, who put it back carefully into the envelope, and then into his briefcase. It took Milligan only a few minutes to understand everything and make up his mind what to do. He realized Dick had taken the picture, but didn't want him to get into trouble. he decided simply to change the pictures over. He thought he would take the original to the police station, take the copy out of Henry's briefcase, and put the original in its place. He would keep the copy as a souvenir. "You'll get the reward, Mr. Dixon, but you mustn't tell anyone about it, not even your wife," he said. "And you, sir," he turned to Mr. Pickup, "I don't think you'll talk about it either. I won't arrest anybody this time, but we'll keep an eye on you, so don't try any funny business." Milligan didn't mention the story of the copy to anybody, not even to Sergeant Hunter. Henry and his friends never knew that they had stolen a copy and that the police had arrested them for that.
Poor Joe. A day later, Joe went to the reception desk at the Grand Hotel. He was very disappointed when he didn't find a message there. "It should be here," he said, but the receptionist couldn't help him. Joe bought an English newspaper at the kiosk and sat down in a park to read it. When he found the article about the arrest of the 3 gangsters, he got very annoyed. Just my luck, he thought. No picture, no money, no friends. I must get back to London. I've got to get some money. But how? He thought and thought, but couldn't think of anything. "I'm afraid I'll have to work after all," he said in a low voice, and walked sadly into a pub to have a drink.